The sun hung high in the cloudless sky, casting sharp shadows across the quiet residential street. It was supposed to be just another ordinary afternoon. Kids playing, neighbors gardening, the mundane rhythm of suburban life. But in an instant, everything changed. Beneath the gleam of sunlight, a dark gray pickup truck screeched to a halt on the asphalt, tires kicking up dust and gravel. From the truck's cab, two adult males stared out with tense, angry expressions. Their faces were set, eyes burning with frustration and something darker. Panic? Rage? It was hard to tell in the chaos. Off to the side, on the ground, a young girl lay sprawled, her body twisted into a defensive posture. She was wearing dark jeans and a tactical vest that looked out of place in this peaceful neighborhood. Her face was streaked with dirt and sweat, her brow furrowed in distress and defiance. Her eyes, wide and fierce, flicked between the two men in the truck with a mixture of fear and determination. She was caught in a struggle. Her body language screamed of resistance and desperation. The man in the passenger seat, older and visibly angry, leaned forward slightly, fists clenched. His gaze was fixed on her, full of menace. The driver, a bit more aggressive, had a rifle raised, aimed directly at the girl. His expression was hard, unyielding, eyes locked onto hers as if daring her to move. "Stay back," she shouted, voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the tension. Her hand was raised instinctively, trying to shield herself or perhaps to plead for mercy. She was clearly fighting, not just physically but emotionally, her body tense, muscles coiled, ready to spring or run at any moment. In the background, the neighborhood remained unaware of the storm brewing just a few yards away. The houses stood quiet, their windows reflecting the bright daylight, oblivious to the life-and-death confrontation unfolding on their street. Suddenly, a shot rang out. The loud bang echoed through the street, startling birds from their perches. The girl flinched, her eyes wide with shock. The rifle's report was sharp, immediate, and devastating. It was a split second that seemed to stretch into eternity. The girl's body jerked as if struck, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The dust hanging in the air, the distant hum of lawnmowers, the distant chatter of neighbors, before chaos erupted anew. A voice, trembling but fierce, broke the silence. "I fired before they stopped." The words spilled out, raw and urgent, as if trying to explain, to justify, or perhaps to convince herself that she'd done the right thing in that moment. The scene played out in a swirl of adrenaline and shock. The girl scrambled to her feet, eyes darting around wildly, searching for safety or help. The men in the truck stared in disbelief, their anger momentarily replaced by shock, though the man with the rifle kept it raised, uncertain whether to fire again or retreat. In that instant, the neighborhood's peaceful veneer shattered. The street held its breath, caught between the shock of violence and the instinct to respond. Someone in the distance might have called the police, but the immediate focus was on the tense standoff, the girl's trembling figure, and the darkened sky of human conflict that had suddenly descended on what was supposed to be a safe place. As the police sirens wailed in the distance, the girl took a deep breath, trying to steady her trembling hands. Her mind raced, filled with questions. What had led to this moment? Was she safe now? Could she find help? She knew her life had changed forever in those few seconds, and all she could do was hope that justice and understanding would follow. And somewhere, deep within her, a flicker of resilience burned bright. She refused to be broken by what had happened. Not today, not ever. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, echoing through the quiet street like a promise of impending resolution. The girl stood frozen for a moment, her chest heaving with ragged breaths, eyes darting from the truck to the approaching sounds of law enforcement. Her mind raced, trying to process what had just transpired, what would happen next. Every muscle in her body felt raw, as if her entire frame was vibrating with adrenaline and exhaustion. The man with the rifle hesitated, his grip tightening on the weapon as he watched the flashing lights draw nearer. His jaw clenched, uncertainty flickering across his face. For a moment, he looked at her, at the girl who had fought so fiercely, and then slowly, he lowered the rifle. It was a gesture of surrender, or perhaps a sign that he knew the fight was over. Meanwhile, the other man in the truck sat back, visibly shaken, his anger replaced with a tense silence. His fists unclenched as he looked out at the girl, realization dawning that the chaos they'd ignited was spiraling far beyond their control. The truck's engine idled, smoke curling from the exhaust, as they both sat in stunned silence. The girl took a hesitant step back, her eyes still wide with fear and confusion. Her body trembled, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming surge of emotion that threatened to break her apart. She had fought with everything she had, trying to survive a moment that felt like it could shatter her world. From the corner of her eye, she saw flashing blue and red lights bouncing off the houses, growing closer with each second. She knew she had to move, to get away from the scene that had turned into a nightmare. Her legs felt heavy, but she forced herself to take a few shaky steps forward, her mind screaming for safety. A police officer burst onto the scene, voice calm but firm. "Everyone stay where you are. Nobody move." The uniformed officer's eyes quickly assessed the situation. A young girl on the ground, a truck with two angry men inside, and the ominous presence of a rifle still visible in the officer's mind. The officer approached cautiously, hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Can you tell me what happened?" Her voice was gentle but commanding, designed to cut through the chaos and establish control. The girl hesitated, then took a shaky breath. They ran over me. I fired. I just wanted them to stop," she managed to whisper, her voice trembling with the weight of what she'd just done. The officer nodded slowly, understanding the complexity of the situation. "Okay, listen to me. You're safe now. We're going to get everyone sorted out. But I need you to stay here and wait for me."
Can you do that?
Her eyes searched the girl's face, seeing the resilience underneath the fear. As the police began to cordon off the scene and talk to the men in the truck, the girl stepped back, finding refuge behind a neighbor's fence. Her legs felt weak, her mind spinning with questions about justice, about what she'd done, and about whether she could ever go back to a normal life after this day. Yet, amid the chaos, a strange sense of clarity emerged. She had survived. She had fought for herself when it mattered most. And somewhere deep inside, a flicker of hope sparked. Perhaps this was only the beginning of her story, not its end. She looked up at the bright sky, the sun still shining down as if nothing had happened at all. But she knew better. Life had changed forever, yet she was still standing, still fighting. And that, she realized, was the most important thing of all. The girl took a deep, trembling breath as she watched the officers secure the scene around her. The adrenaline that had carried her through the chaos was slowly ebbing, leaving behind a heavy weight on her shoulders. Her eyes flicked to the police officers as they carefully approached the truck, their expressions serious and alert. One officer gently placed a hand on her shoulder, offering a reassuring squeeze. She felt a strange mixture of relief and lingering fear. Relief that help had arrived, that the immediate danger was over, but fear of what came next. Questions swirled in her mind. What would happen to her? Would she be blamed? Did she truly do the right thing? Moments later, a paramedic arrived, kneeling beside her with a warm, comforting voice. "Can you tell me your name? Are you hurt anywhere?" The girl nodded faintly, trying to gather her thoughts. She was aware of the prickling sensation of tears threatening to spill, but fought to hold them back. As the paramedics examined her briefly, the police officer who had first approached her crouched down again, speaking softly. "We're going to take you to the station. You're safe now, but I need you to stay strong and tell us everything you remember." She looked at the officer, her voice catching in her throat. I didn't want them to hurt anyone else. I was scared," she whispered, eyes brimming with unshed tears. It was the truth. Her fear, her desperation, had driven her to act in a moment of chaos and courage. The officer nodded understandingly. "That's important. We'll get to the bottom of what happened. But right now, your safety is the most important thing." As they gently helped her to her feet, She glanced once more at the scene. At the truck, now surrounded by officers and flashing lights, at the neighbors peeking nervously from behind curtains, and at the distant horizon where the sun continued to shine relentlessly. She wondered how her life would change from this point forward. Inside her, a quiet resolve was beginning to form. Despite the fear and confusion, she knew she had fought to survive, and that she would carry this moment with her, forever etched into her memory. But she also understood one thing. She was not alone. Help was here, and she had the strength to face whatever came next. With the police guiding her toward the patrol car, she took a shaky step forward, her mind already racing with questions, hopes, and the faint flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this terrible day could be a turning point, an unexpected start to a new story, one where she found her voice and her strength. The girl sat quietly in the back of the police car, her hands trembling on her lap as the city lights blurred past the windows. The hum of the engine was almost soothing, a stark contrast to the chaos she had just escaped. Inside, her mind replayed every moment, the fear, the adrenaline, the shot fired, the man lowering his weapon. Each detail felt sharp and vivid, yet distant, like a nightmare she was trying to wake up from. Outside, the city continued its restless hum, oblivious to the small girl who had become embroiled in a day that would change her life forever. She wondered how she had ended up here, how a simple walk that started with hope and curiosity had spiraled into violence and fear. Her thoughts drifted to her family, to her friends, to the normal life she once knew before everything had turned upside down. The officer riding beside her, a kind-looking woman with gentle eyes, broke the silence. "You're very brave," she said softly. "Not everyone would have stood their ground like that. Do you want to tell me what pushed you to act that way?" The girl hesitated, then took a deep breath. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I saw him threaten someone. I couldn't just stand there and do nothing. I grabbed the first thing I could find, my bag, and I threw it at him. Then I fired the shot. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to stop him." The officer nodded, listening carefully. "You did what you thought was right in that moment. That's all anyone can ask for. But I need you to know that things are complicated. We'll need to understand everything. Why you were there, what you saw. It's not your fault, but it's important you tell us everything." The girl looked out the window, tears threatening to spill but holding firm. She felt a strange mix of guilt and relief. Guilt for the chaos she had caused, relief that she was safe, that she had survived. Her mind flashed back to the face of the man who had threatened her and others, to the moment she had pulled the trigger, and she wondered if she had done the right thing. As the police car pulled into the station parking lot, she took another deep breath. The building loomed ahead, cold, sterile, and intimidating. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of disinfectant and the quiet hum of activity. She was led inside and checked into a small interview room, where a detective sat across from her, flipping through a thick file. "Can you tell me everything from the beginning?" the detective asked kindly, setting a pen down on the table. She nodded slowly, then began to recount her story. The walk she'd taken, the argument she'd overheard, the man's threatening words, her decision to intervene. Every detail was carefully laid out, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. Hours passed as she answered questions, her mind oscillating between exhaustion and clarity. She realized she was no longer just a girl caught in a frightening moment. She was now a witness, a survivor, perhaps even a hero in her own fragile way. Finally, as the night wore on, the detective looked up from the file and offered a small, reassuring smile. "You did a brave thing. We'll make sure everything is looked into properly. For now, you're safe here." She felt a strange sense of relief, but also a lingering heaviness. The night had revealed how fragile her world was, how quickly everything could unravel. Yet amidst the darkness, a small seed of hope had taken root, hope that she could face whatever came next, that her actions had mattered even if the consequences were still uncertain. As she was taken to a quiet room to rest, her thoughts drifted to her family, her home, and the life she hoped to rebuild. She knew her story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And deep inside, she realized that no matter what the future held, she had already discovered something powerful, her own strength.